Number. She was just cleaning Apache's machine gun, until pilot saw the battle-worn patch on her shoulder. The moon's surface stretched out like a gray wasteland under the dim light of distant stars. Forward Operating Base Titan 7 sat in the middle of nowhere, a collection of prefabricated buildings and landing pads that humans called home in this forgotten corner of space. The base was quiet tonight, with only the hum of generators and the occasional clank of metal breaking the silence. Lieutenant Hyun-woo climbed out of his Apache gunship with tired movements. His flight suit was soaked with sweat, and his muscles ached from 8 hours of patrol duty. The mission had been rough. Valkyrie raiders had tested their defenses twice, forcing his squadron to burn through ammunition and fuel just to keep them at bay. Now his bird, callsign Reaper 9, looked like it had been through a meat grinder. Scorch marks covered the hull, and one of the weapon pods hung at an odd angle. He pulled off his helmet and ran a hand through his damp hair. All he wanted was a hot shower and 6 hours of sleep. The maintenance crew would handle his Apache. They always did. He started walking toward the barracks, his boots crunching on the rocky ground. Then he heard it. A soft humming sound, almost musical, coming from the direction of his gunship. Hyun-woo stopped and turned around. Someone was still working on Reaper 9. That was odd. The maintenance chief usually had his crews knock off by this hour. He walked back toward the Apache, curiosity pulling him forward. What he saw made him freeze in his tracks. A woman knelt beside the Apache's M230 chain gun, working on it with careful precision. She had disassembled half the weapon system and was cleaning each piece with a cloth, her movements smooth and practiced. She wore a standard maintenance jumpsuit, but something about the way she handled the gun parts seemed wrong. No. Not wrong. Too right. Too skilled. She moved like someone who had spent years behind that weapon, not servicing it but firing it. The woman was young, maybe mid-20s, with her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her face was focused, serious, and there was something in her expression that Hyun-woo recognized from his own mirror. The look of someone who had seen combat. Real combat. She was humming quietly, some tune he did not recognize. Her hands moved from piece to piece without hesitation, checking tolerances, cleaning carbon buildup, inspecting feed mechanisms. This was not the work of a regular mechanic. This was the work of someone who knew this weapon, like an old friend. Hyun-woo took a step closer, his boots scraping on metal. The woman's humming stopped. She looked up at him with dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. "Lieutenant," she said simply, acknowledging him with a small nod before returning to her work. "You're working late," Hyun-woo said, trying to sound casual. "I don't think I've seen you before." "Transfer came through last week," she replied without looking up. "They needed more techs. I volunteered." Hyun-woo moved closer, watching her hands work. They were scarred. Not the small cuts and burns that mechanics got from working on hot engines. These were combat scars. Now they're combat. Nundy. Thick lines across her palms and fingers that spoke of old injuries, serious ones. "You know your way around that gun," he observed. "It's my job to know," she said. But there was something in her voice. A hint of something deeper. The moonlight shifted as Titan 7 rotated. And suddenly, Hyun-woo saw it. On her right shoulder, partially hidden by the collar of her jumpsuit, was a patch. It was old, faded, and torn. The colors had bled and mixed over time, but he could still make out the design. A black shield with red raindrops falling from a storm cloud. Below it, barely readable, were the words, 7th Orbital Drop Regiment. Hyun-woo's blood went cold. The 7th ODR. Hell's Rain Battalion. They were legends in the military, known for their brutal effectiveness in orbital assault operations. But they were also ghosts. The entire unit had been declared lost with all hands 2 years ago during the Battle of Crimson Ridge. Every soldier, every pilot, every crew member, all dead. The official report said the Valkyrie had glassed the entire battlefield. Nothing survived. Yet here was their patch, worn by a woman who was supposed to be cleaning his Apache. That patch, Hyunwoo said slowly. Where did you get it? The woman's hands stopped moving. She set down the gun piece she was holding and looked up at him again. This time, her eyes were different. Harder. Colder. It's mine. That's not possible. The 7th ODR was wiped out at Crimson Ridge. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows wrong, she said. She stood up, and Hyunwoo realized she was shorter than him, but carried herself like someone much larger. My name is Ji-sun. Corporal Ji-sun, former door gunner. 7th Orbital Drop Regiment. Hell's Rain Battalion. I was there at Crimson Ridge. And I'm still here now. Hyunwoo stared at her. The patch was real. He could see that now. It was battle-worn, stained with what looked like old blood, scorched by plasma fire. It had been there, in the middle of that hell. But the reports said no survivors, Hyunwoo said weakly. Reports say lots of things, Ji-sun replied. She knelt back down and picked up the gun piece again, continuing her work as if she had not just revealed something impossible. Most of them are lies. Hyunwoo's mind raced. If she was telling the truth, then she was a ghost. A survivor of the worst battle in the war. But why was she here? On this forgotten moon, working as a mechanic. Why was she not commanding troops or training new pilots? Why had the military buried her existence? He watched her hands move over the gun again. Now he understood what he was seeing. Those were not the hands of a mechanic. Those were the hands of a gunner. Someone who had fired this exact weapon thousands of times. Who knew every vibration and sound it made. Who could strip it blind in the dark. How long were you a gunner? He asked quietly. Ji-sun paused, just for a moment. 4 years. Flew with the same pilot the whole time. Da-un was her name. She was the best. Her voice caught slightly on the past tense. She died at Crimson Ridge. I should have died there too. But you didn't. No, Ji-sun said, her voice flat. I didn't. The silence stretched between them. Hyunwoo wanted to ask more questions. He wanted to know how she survived, why she was hiding, what really happened at Crimson Ridge. But something in her posture told him not to push. Not yet. Instead, he watched her work. She reassembled the M230 with the same practiced efficiency, each piece clicking into place perfectly. When she was done, she stood back and looked at the gun with an expression that was almost affectionate. Your bird is ready, Lieutenant, she said. Cleaned, serviced, and fully loaded. Try not to burn through all your ammunition in one patrol next time. I'll do my best, Hyunwoo said. He hesitated. Will you be working on Reaper 9 again? Ji-sun looked at him for a long moment. Something passed behind her eyes. Some calculation or decision. If you want me to, I do, Hyunwoo said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Ji-sun nodded once. Then I will. She picked up her toolkit and walked away into the darkness, leaving Hyunwoo standing beside his Apache. He looked at the M230 chain gun, now gleaming clean in the moonlight. Then he looked at the direction Ji-sun had gone. A survivor of Crimson Ridge. A ghost from a dead battalion. Working on his guns in the middle of the night. Hyunwoo had a feeling his life was about to get very complicated. She was just cleaning Apache's machine gun, until pilot saw the battle-worn patch on her shoulder. Hyunwoo could not sleep that night. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ji-sun and that patch. The 7th Orbital Drop Regiment. Hell's Rain. Everyone in the military knew the story. 200 soldiers sent to hold a position at Crimson Ridge while civilians evacuated. They were supposed to have air support, naval backup, everything they needed. But something went wrong. The support never came. When relief forces finally broke through 3 days later, there was nothing left but smoking craters and bodies. The official story said there were no survivors. But Ji-sun claimed she was there. And that patch on her shoulder looked real enough. At dawn, Hyun-woo gave up on sleep. He got dressed and headed to the base command center. The duty officer barely looked up as Hyun-woo logged into the personnel database. He pulled up Ji-sun's service record and started reading. What he found made his stomach turn. The file was heavily redacted. Large sections were blacked out or marked as classified. Her service history showed she had been a door gunner, just like she said, but her unit assignment was listed as administrative reassignment, with no details. Her medical discharge code was classified. Her current status showed her working in maintenance, but there was no explanation for why a combat-rated gunner would be doing that work. Most disturbing was the date. She had been reassigned exactly 2 weeks after the Battle of Crimson Ridge. Hyun-woo searched for the casualty lists from that battle. It took him 20 minutes to find them in the archived files. He scrolled through the names, and there it was. Corporal Ji-sun, door gunner, killed in action, body not recovered. She was officially dead, but she was very much alive, working on his Apache's guns in the middle of the night. Hyun-woo logged out and sat back in his chair. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to erase Ji-sun from the records. Someone high up the chain of command. The question was, why? He spent the rest of the day trying to focus on his duties, but his mind kept wandering back to Ji-sun. When his patrol shift ended, he went looking for her. He found her in the maintenance hangar, working on another Apache's weapon system. She saw him coming and did not look surprised. "Lieutenant," she said, acknowledging him with a nod. "We need to talk," Hyun-woo said. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do." Ji-sun's hand stopped moving on the gun. She set down her tools slowly and stood up. Her expression was unreadable. "Then you know to leave this alone. 1. I know that you're listed as dead. I know that your entire unit was wiped out. I know that someone went to a lot of trouble to hide you." Hyun-woo stepped closer. "The 5, and won his pass about. I know that you're listed as dead. What I don't know is why." Ji-sun was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed, a sound full of exhaustion. "You should let this go, Lieutenant. For your own good." "I can't," Hyun-woo said honestly. "Not after seeing that patch. Not after knowing what it means." Ji-sun studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. "Okay. But not here. And you only get to hear this once. After that, you never ask me about it again. Deal?" "I 1. Deal." They walked to the edge of the base, where the buildings gave way to open lunar surface. The stars were bright overhead, and the silence was complete. Ji-sun sat down on a metal crate and stared out at the horizon. Hyun-woo sat beside her and waited. Crimson Ridge was supposed to be simple. Ji-sun began, her voice quiet but steady. "Hold a defensive position for 72 hours, while civilian transports evacuated from the colony below. 200 soldiers, 12 Apaches, and the promise of orbital support if things got bad. Command said the Valkyrie wouldn't hit us that hard. They were wrong." She paused, and Hyun-woo saw her hands clench into fists. "They came at us with everything. 10,000 ground troops, war mechs, gunships, artillery. We called for support. Command said it was coming. It never did. For 3 days, we held that ridge with nothing but what we had. Every hour, we lost more soldiers. Every hour, the Valkyrie got closer." Ji-sun's voice remained steady, but Hyun-woo could hear the pain underneath. "I was the door gunner on an Apache piloted by my best friend, Da-un. We had flown together for 4 years. She knew what I was thinking before I said it. I knew how she would fly before she moved the stick. We were perfect together." Ji-sun's voice softened when she said Da-un's name. "We flew mission after mission, providing close support to the ground troops. By the end of day 2, we were the only Apache still in the air. Every other bird had been shot down or damaged beyond repair." Hyun-woo listened in silence, imagining the scene. 200 against 10,000. No support. No backup. On the third day, the Valkyrie brought up heavy artillery. They were going to flatten the ridge, and everyone on it. Daun and I made one last run, trying to take out the artillery positions. We got 3 of them before a plasma round hit us. Jisun's voice cracked slightly. The Apache went down hard. We crashed right into the command bunker. Daun died on impact. The crash killed 8 soldiers who were inside. Jisun stopped talking. Hyunwoo waited, giving her time. I woke up in the wreckage, she continued after a moment. My legs were broken. My hands were burned. But I could still move. I dragged myself out of the cockpit and found Daun. She was gone. Nothing I could do about that. So I did the only thing I could think of. I salvaged the M230 from our Apache and set it up at the bunker entrance. Hyunwoo's eyes widened. You manned the gun on foot? For 14 hours, Ji-sun said, her voice flat now, reciting facts. The remaining soldiers were evacuating through tunnels under the ridge. Someone needed to hold the entrance. I was the only one with nothing left to lose. So I sat behind that gun and fired. The Valkyrie kept coming. I kept firing. The gun overheated twice. I kept firing. My hands started to blister and burn from the heat. I kept firing. She held up her scarred hands, showing him the thick lines of scar tissue. When the relief force finally broke through, I was the last one alive on that ridge. The gun barrel had melted. My hands were fused to the grips. They had to cut me free. She lowered her hands. I had fired over 40,000 rounds. The Valkyrie bodies were stacked 3 deep around the bunker entrance. Hyunwoo felt his throat tighten. 40,000 rounds. 14 hours. Alone. The military had a problem, Ji-sun continued. They had promised support that never came. They had let 200 soldiers die because of a bureaucratic mistake. If the truth got out, heads would roll. So they made a decision. Declare everyone dead. Bury the story. Move on. But you survived, Hyunwoo said. Barely. They rebuilt my hands in a military hospital, gave me new identity papers, stuck me in a maintenance unit, and told me to never speak about Crimson Ridge. They said if I told anyone, I would be court-martialed for violating classified operations security. Ji-sun looked at him directly. So, I became a mechanic. I fix guns, instead of firing them, and I wear Daun's patch, because it's all I have left of her, and everyone else who died there. The silence stretched between them. Hyunwoo did not know what to say. What could anyone say to a story like that? I'm sorry, he finally managed. Don't be, Ji-sun said. I'm still alive. They're not. That's just how it is. It's not right. No. Ji-sun agreed. It's not. But it's how the military works. They protect themselves first. Soldiers come second. Hyunwoo looked at her. This woman who had held a position alone for 14 hours, who had fired 40,000 rounds with broken legs and burning hands, who had been erased from history to save some officer's career. She should have been given medals. Instead, she was given a wrench and told to stay quiet. I won't tell anyone, Hyunwoo said. But I meant what I said last night. I want you working on my bird. Ji-sun looked surprised. Why? Because you know what those guns mean, Hyunwoo said. You know what they're for, and because you deserve better than being forgotten. Ji-sun's expression softened slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it was close. Okay, Lieutenant. I'll keep your bird running. They sat together in silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the war continued. And somewhere on a forgotten ridge, 200 soldiers lay in unmarked graves, their sacrifice hidden by bureaucrats and lies. But Hyunwoo knew the truth now, and he would not forget. Number she was just cleaning. Apache's machine gun. Until pilots saw the battle-worn patch on her shoulder. The days turned into weeks, and Hyunwoo kept his word. He said nothing about Ji-sun's past to anyone, but he made sure to request her specifically for all of his Apache's maintenance work. At first, some of the other mechanics grumbled about the favoritism, but they stopped complaining when they saw the results. Reaper 9 ran smoother than it ever had. The guns never jammed. The targeting systems responded faster. Ji-sun knew her job better than anyone on the base. More than that, she taught Hyunwoo things about the M230 chain gun that no training manual ever covered. Small tricks that only someone who had lived behind that weapon would know. How to adjust the feed rate for different atmospheric conditions. How to compensate for barrel heat during extended fire. How to recognize the sound of an imminent jam 3 seconds before it happened. You feel it through the stick, Ji-sun explained one afternoon while they worked together on the gun. Right here. A tiny vibration that should not be there. You feel that. You ease off the trigger for half a second. Let the mechanism catch up. Then you're back in business. Hyunwoo tried it during his next patrol. Sure enough, he felt the vibration. He eased off, waited, then resumed fire. The gun ran perfectly. When he got back, he found Ji-sun and told her it worked. She smiled. Actually smiled. It was the first time he had seen her do that. Da-eun taught me that, she said quietly. Took me 6 months to learn to feel it. You got it in one try. They developed a routine. Hyunwoo would fly his missions, and Ji-sun would be waiting when he landed, ready to service the Apache. They would work together sometimes, her explaining things, while he listened and learned. Other times, they would just sit in comfortable silence, each understanding what the other had been through. Hyunwoo realized he was beginning to see Ji-sun not as a mechanic, but as a fellow warrior, someone who understood what it meant to fly into fire, to make impossible choices, to carry the weight of dead friends. She never complained. She never asked for recognition. She just did her job with quiet competence. But the peace did not last. Intelligence reports started coming in about Valkyrie activity in their sector. Fleet movements. Troop buildups. Something big was coming. Command held daily briefings, and the news got worse each time. The Valkyrie were planning a major offensive, and Fob Titan 7 was directly in their path. The base commander called an emergency meeting. Hyunwoo sat with his squadron in the briefing room, while a tired-looking colonel explained the situation. The Valkyrie are hitting us with everything they have, the colonel said, pointing at a tactical display. 3 battle groups. Approximately 50,000 ground troops. Air support. Naval bombardment. They want this moon, and they want it now. A pilot next to Hyunwoo swore under his breath. Command has ordered a strategic withdrawal, the colonel continued. All non-essential personnel will evacuate within 24 hours. Combat units will provide covering fire and follow once the transports are clear. How many transports? Someone asked. 12. Enough for all personnel and critical equipment. And who covers the transports? The colonel's expression turned grim. Apache Squadron. You'll provide close air support while the evacuation proceeds. Once the last transport is clear, you bug out and catch up. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Apaches would be alone, outnumbered, facing the entire Valkyrie assault force. It was a suicide mission dressed up with polite language. Any questions? The colonel asked. No one spoke. What was there to say? The meeting ended, and the pilots filed out silently. Hyunwoo walked back to the hangar in a daze. His squadron would be flying their last mission tomorrow. Some of them would not make it back. Maybe all of them. He found Ji-sun working on Reaper 9, as always. She looked up as he approached, and something in his expression made her stop working. What happened? She asked. Hyunwoo told her. The Valkyrie offensive. The evacuation order. The covering mission. As he spoke, he watched her face carefully. She listened without interrupting. Her expression unreadable. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice calm and steady. I want to fly with you. Hyunwoo blinked. Tomorrow. When you fly the mission, I want to be your gunner. Ji-sun. That's impossible. You're not cleared for combat. If command finds out, we'll both be court-martialed. I don't care about court-martial, she said firmly. You need every gun you can get tomorrow. And you know I can shoot better than half your squadron's gunners. She was not wrong about that, but the risk was enormous. Why? Hyunwoo asked. Why would you do this? Ji-sun looked at him with those old eyes that had seen too much. Because I owe Da-eun this. I owe all of them this. I should have died at Crimson Ridge with my unit. Instead, I've been hiding for 2 years, fixing guns instead of firing them. Maybe this is my chance to make that right. Or maybe you'll just get killed. Maybe, Ji-sun agreed. But at least I'll die doing what I was trained to do. Fighting. Not hiding. Hyunwoo stared at her, torn between duty and instinct. Every regulation said this was wrong, but every instinct said Ji-sun was exactly who he needed beside him tomorrow. If we do this, he said slowly, and we survive, we're both getting kicked out of the military. If we do this and survive, Ji-sun countered, we'll have saved 12 transports full of people. I can live with getting kicked out for that. Ji-sun countered. Ji-sun countered. Ji-sun countered. Hyunwoo thought about it. Really thought about it. Tomorrow was going to be hell. He would need the best gunner possible. And Ji-sun was the best. She had proven that, at Crimson Ridge. Okay, he said finally. But we list you as emergency crew. If anyone asks, I'll say my regular gunner got sick, and you volunteered. Ji-sun nodded. Thank you. That night, Hyunwoo could not sleep again. He lay in his bunk, thinking about tomorrow, about the mission, about Ji-sun, about all the ways this could go wrong. At midnight, he gave up on sleep and went to the hangar. He was not surprised to find Ji-sun already there, sitting in Reaper 9's gunner seat. She wore an old flight suit, patched and faded, but unmistakably military issue. On the shoulder was the Hell's Rain patch. No longer hidden under a maintenance jumpsuit, Hyunwoo climbed into the pilot seat and looked back at her through the cockpit. Can't sleep either. Haven't slept well in 2 years, Ji-sun admitted. But tonight is worse. Second thoughts? No. Just memories. Hyunwoo understood. He watched her hands rest on the gun controls. They were steady. No shaking. No hesitation. She belonged in that seat. Ji-sun? Yes? The Valkyrie are going to throw everything at us tomorrow. We might not make it back. I know. Are you scared? Ji-sun was quiet for a moment. Then she answered honestly. Terrified. But being scared never stopped me before. Hyunwoo nodded. Me too. They sat together in the darkness of the Apache's cockpit, pilot and gunner, preparing for the battle to come. Outside, the base was quiet, but everyone knew that by this time tomorrow, the peace would be shattered. The Valkyrie were coming. And they were coming in force. Ji-sun reached up and touched the Hell's Rain patch on her shoulder. Da-eun, she whispered, so quietly that Hyunwoo almost did not hear. I'm sorry I took so long to get back in the fight. But I'm here now. Watch over me one more time. Hyunwoo closed his eyes and said his own silent prayer. To whatever gods might be listening. To all the pilots who had died before him. To luck and skill and fate. Then he opened his eyes and looked at Ji-sun through the cockpit. You're not alone this time, he said, echoing his words from weeks ago. Ji-sun met his gaze and nodded. Her voice was firm when she spoke. Let's make them pay. As dawn approached, Hyunwoo and Ji-sun sat in Reaper 9, waiting. The calm before the storm. The last moments of peace before hell arrived. And when the sun finally rose over the lunar horizon, they would be ready. She was just cleaning. Apache's machine gun. The Valkyrie arrived with the dawn. Hyunwoo saw them first on his radar, a massive swarm of contacts dropping from orbit. Hundreds of dropships, each carrying troops and war machines. Behind them, larger shapes appeared. The Valkyrie battlecruisers taking up positions in high orbit. They were not hiding. They were not sneaking in. They were announcing their presence with overwhelming force. All units, this is base command, the radio crackled. Valkyrie assault force inbound. All Apaches launch immediately. Provide cover for evacuation transports. Good luck. Hyunwoo fired up Reaper 9's engines. The Apache lifted off smoothly. And he felt Ji-sun shift in the gunner seat behind him. He had introduced her to his squadron commander as emergency crew, claiming his regular gunner had food poisoning. The commander had been too busy to question it. Now they were airborne, and there was no going back. 8 Apaches rose from the landing pads and formed up in the sky. Below them, the evacuation transports were loading the last of the personnel. 12 fat, slow ships that would be easy targets for Valkyrie fighters. The Apache's job was to keep those fighters away long enough for the transports to escape. Reaper Squadron, spread out and engage at will. The squadron commander ordered. Make every shot count. Quote, the Valkyrie dropships hit the ground like meteors, throwing up clouds of dust and debris. Their rear doors opened, and troops poured out by the hundreds. War mechs, twice the height of a man, and bristling with weapons, stomped forward. Valkyrie gunships rose into the air, searching for targets. Hyunwoo dove toward the enemy formation. And Ji-sun opened fire. The M230 chain gun roared to life, and Hyunwoo felt the Apache shudder from the recoil. Through his displays, he saw enemy troops falling in neat lines. Ji-sun's fire was precise, controlled, devastating. 3-round bursts. 5-round bursts. Never wasting ammunition. Every burst found a target. Good shooting, Hyunwoo called back. Ji-sun did not answer. She was completely focused, her breathing steady and calm through the intercom. Hyunwoo flew the Apache in a tight weaving pattern, giving her clean shots while avoiding enemy fire. They worked together perfectly. Pilot and gunner moving as one. A Valkyrie gunship rose to meet them. Hyunwoo saw it coming and jinked left. Ji-sun tracked it smoothly and fired. The burst caught the gunship's cockpit, and it fell from the sky in flames. Target down, Ji-sun said calmly. 3 o'clock, war mech. Hyunwoo turned and saw the mech, its weapons tracking toward one of the evacuation transports. Ji-sun fired, before he could even line up the shot. Her rounds punched through the mech's sensor array and into the pilot compartment. The machine stumbled and collapsed. Hyunwoo realized something. Ji-sun was not just good. She was extraordinary. She saw targets before he did. She anticipated enemy movements. She placed her shots with surgical precision. This was not skill. This was instinct born from years of combat and 14 hours of hell. At Crimson Ridge, the other Apaches were engaging now, their guns adding to the chaos. But the Valkyrie kept coming. More dropships, more troops, more mechs. For every enemy they killed, 2 more appeared. Transport 1 is away, Base Command reported. 11 remaining. The battle intensified. A Valkyrie fighter screamed past, and Hyunwoo threw Reaper 9 into a violent turn to avoid its plasma fire. Ji-sun stayed locked on target throughout the maneuver, firing at ground forces even as the Apache twisted through the sky. Reaper 4 is hit, someone shouted over the radio. Hyunwoo saw one of his squadron mates spiraling down, smoke trailing from its engine. The Apache crashed into the lunar surface and did not move. 7 Apaches left. Transport 3 is away. 9 remaining. The Valkyrie were focusing their fire on the Apaches now. They understood that the helicopters were the only thing keeping them from the transports. Enemy gunships swarmed in groups, trying to overwhelm the human defenders with numbers. Hyunwoo and Ji-sun worked perfectly together. He flew. She shot. He called out targets. She destroyed them. She warned him of incoming fire. He evaded. They were not pilot and gunner. They were a single weapon system. operating with perfect efficiency. Reaper 7 is down. Another Apache fell from the sky. 6 left. Transport 6 is away. 6 remaining. Hyunwoo's displays were flashing warnings. Fuel low. Ammunition at 40%. Minor damage to tail rotor. But they kept fighting. Everyone kept fighting. There was no other choice. Ji-sun's gun never stopped. She fired in short, controlled bursts, making every round count. Hyunwoo had flown with a dozen gunners in his career, but none of them came close to her level of skill. She was a machine, cold and precise, giving the Valkyrie no mercy. Reaper 2 is damaged, returning to base. 5 left. Then the situation got worse. Much worse. A massive shape descended from orbit, blocking out the sun. A Valkyrie heavy cruiser, bristling with weapons. It took up position directly above the evacuation transports, its ventral guns powering up. All units, be advised, enemy cruiser in firing position, base command said. And even through the radio, Hyunwoo could hear the desperation. It has firing solution on remaining transports. Hyunwoo felt his blood turn cold. The cruiser's main guns could vaporize all 6 remaining transports in seconds. 300 people. Gone in an instant. Reaper Squadron, focus fire on that cruiser. The squadron commander ordered. It was useless. Their guns could not penetrate a cruiser's armor. They all knew it. But they had to try. Hyunwoo started to turn toward the massive ship. But Ji-sun's voice stopped him. Wait, she said. Her voice was different now. Intense. Focused. I see something. What? The ventral weapons port. It's open. They're charging the main gun. Hyunwoo pulled up the targeting display. She was right. The cruiser's underside had a massive port that had opened to expose the charging mechanism for its main weapon. But it was tiny compared to the ship's bulk, and it would only be open for a few seconds. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. The angle, the distance, the timing. I can make the shot, Ji-sun said. Her voice was absolutely certain. Hyunwoo did not hesitate. He had seen what she could do. He had heard her story. He knew what she was capable of. Tell me what you need. Bring us in belly up, full throttle, heading 270. Get me under that ship. I need a clean angle. Straight up. Into that port. It was insane. Flying inverted at full speed directly under an enemy cruiser. Any other pilot would have refused. But Hyunwoo had learned to trust Ji-sun. Copy that. Hang on. He threw Reaper 9 into a roll, flipping the Apache upside down. The lunar surface was now above his head. He pushed the throttle to maximum and aimed for the space directly beneath the cruiser. Warning alarms screamed. The Apache was not designed for inverted flight at high speed. Reaper 9, what are you doing? The squadron commander shouted. Hyunwoo ignored him. He focused on his flying, keeping the Apache stable despite the impossible position. Behind him, Ji-sun was calm, tracking the target. They screamed under the cruiser, and suddenly Hyunwoo could see it on his display. The open port, glowing with building energy. Ji-sun had a 3-second window. Maybe less. Target locked, Ji-sun said, her voice like ice. Firing. The M230 roared. Hyunwoo could not see the shots, but he felt the Apache shake from the recoil. Ji-sun fired for 2 full seconds, pouring rounds directly up into the cruiser's open port. Then everything went white. The cruiser's main weapon exploded. Not fired. Exploded. Ji-sun's rounds had torn through coolant lines and plasma coils. The energy that was building to destroy the transports had nowhere to go but inward. The cruiser's entire reactor section detonated in a blinding flash. The shockwave caught Reaper 9 like a giant hand. Hyunwoo fought the controls as the Apache tumbled through the air. Alarms screamed. The HUD went dark. They were spinning, falling. Come on! Hyunwoo shouted, pulling on the stick with everything he had. Come on! The Apache responded sluggishly. Hyun-woo managed to flip them right side up, but they were still falling. The ground rushed up at them. He pulled back harder, feeling the strain in his arms. The Apache's nose came up. Up, up. They hit the lunar surface hard, skidding sideways across the gray dust. Metal shrieked. Something exploded. Then they stopped. Hyun-woo sat in the pilot seat, breathing hard. Every part of his body hurt. His displays were dark. The engines were silent. But he was alive. "Ji-sun?" he called out. "Still here," she answered weakly. "I think my ribs are broken. But I'm here." Above them, the remains of the Valkyrie cruiser fell from the sky in burning pieces. And beyond that, Hyun-woo saw 6 transports accelerating into orbit, their engines glowing bright. They had done it. The transports were away. 300 people were safe. "Reaper 9, what's your status?" the squadron commander called. "We're down," Hyun-woo replied. "But alive. The transports, all away." "You did it, Reaper 9. Hyun-woo looked back at Ji-sun. Even through the pain, she was smiling. "We did it," she said quietly. "Da-un. We did it." She was just cleaning Apache's machine gun. Until Pilot saw the battle-worn patch on her shoulder. The Apache was dead. Hyun-woo and Ji-sun were trapped in the wreckage, half a kilometer from the Valkyrie front line. Hyun-woo had a dislocated shoulder and cuts all over his face. Ji-sun had broken ribs and a badly twisted ankle. They managed to pull themselves out of the cockpit and take cover behind the destroyed helicopter. Hyun-woo pulled out his sidearm and checked the ammunition. 1 magazine, 15 rounds. Ji-sun had salvaged a rifle from the Apache's emergency kit. 30 rounds. That was all they had. "Think the Valkyrie will come for us?" Ji-sun asked, wincing as she leaned against the Apache's hull. "Probably," Hyun-woo said. "We just blew up their cruiser. They're going to be angry." "Good," Ji-sun said with a tired smile. They waited in the wreckage, watching the horizon. The Valkyrie ground forces were regrouping after the cruiser explosion. The shockwave had disrupted their entire formation, but they would recover soon. On one, and then they would come. Sure enough, an hour later, Hyun-woo saw movement. Valkyrie troops, advancing carefully across the lunar surface. He raised his pistol, knowing it was hopeless. 15 rounds against an army. But then something strange happened. The Valkyrie stopped advancing. They formed a perimeter around the wreck, but did not attack. They just waited. "What are they doing?" Hyun-woo asked. "I don't know," Ji-sun said, equally confused. Then a single figure walked forward from the Valkyrie lines. He was tall, wearing ornate armor that marked him as an officer. He carried no weapon. Instead, he held a white flag. Hyun-woo and Ji-sun exchanged glances. A white flag, a universal signal for parley. The Valkyrie officer stopped 10 meters from the wreck. He spoke, and a small device on his belt translated his words into human language. "I am Commander Tarkesh of the Valkyrie 3rd Fleet," the officer said. His voice was deep and resonant. "I witnessed your battle. I saw the shot that destroyed our cruiser. Such skill and bravery is rare, even among my own warriors." Hyun-woo stood up slowly, his pistol lowered but ready. "What do you want?" "To honor you," Tarkesh said simply. In Valkyrie culture, warriors who display exceptional courage and skill are worthy of respect, even if they are enemies. You fought with the spirit of the Ancient Ones. To kill such warriors through simple numbers would be dishonorable. He turned his gaze to Ji-sun, who had also struggled to her feet. "Especially you, Gunner. I watched your targeting. Impossible angles. Perfect timing. You fight with a skill I have not seen in 20 years of war." Ji-sun said nothing, but she stood straighter despite her pain. "I offer you safe passage back to your lines," Tarkesh continued. "Not as prisoners. As honored warriors. You will walk free, with your weapons, unmolested by my troops. This is my gift to you." In recognition of your courage. Hyunwoo stared at the Velkari commander. This was unheard of. The Velkari were brutal enemies. They took no prisoners. They showed no mercy. Yet here was their commander, offering them safe passage. Why? Hyunwoo asked. Because true warriors recognize other true warriors, Tarkesh said. Because the ancient codes demand it. And because I witnessed something today that deserves to be remembered, not erased. He looked at Ji-sun again. You will survive to fight another day, Gunner. And when we meet again in battle, I will be honored to face you. Before Hyunwoo could respond, the sound of engines filled the air. Human Apaches, reinforcements from the main base, screamed overhead. They saw the Velkari forces surrounding the wreck and immediately took up attack positions. All Velkari forces, withdraw immediately. The lead Apache pilot ordered over external speakers. Tarkesh did not move. He simply raised his hand, and his troops began to pull back. He looked at Hyunwoo and Ji-sun one last time. Remember this day, humans. Remember that honor exists even in war. Then he turned and walked back to his lines. The human Apaches landed, and soldiers rushed forward to help Hyunwoo and Ji-sun. Medical teams treated their injuries, while transport birds arrived to evacuate them. The whole time, Hyunwoo watched Tarkesh's forces. They maintained their distance, weapons lowered. True to his word, the Velkari commander let them go. Back at the main base, Hyunwoo and Ji-sun were immediately separated. Hyunwoo was taken to medical, while Ji-sun was escorted to the command center. He knew what was coming. Court-martial. She had flown an unauthorized combat mission. He had allowed it. They were both in serious trouble. But then, something unexpected happened. The captain of the evacuation transport submitted a formal commendation. 300 survivors added their testimonies. News of the impossible shot spread through the base, then to other bases, then across human space. Someone had leaked the Apache's gun camera footage. Within days, everyone in the military had seen it. Ji-sun's perfect shot. The cruiser exploding. The transports escaping. The media picked up the story. The miracle of Titan 7, they called it. The gunner, who destroyed a cruiser with a chain gun. The impossible shot that saved 300 lives. Command tried to suppress it. They tried to classify the footage, but it was too late. The story had gone viral. People were asking questions. Who was this gunner? Why had no one heard of her before? And then someone dug deeper. They found the redacted files. They connected Ji-sun to the casualty lists from Crimson Ridge. Slowly, piece by piece, the truth came out. The abandoned soldiers. The promised support that never arrived. The cover-up. The lone survivor who held the line for 14 hours. The military had erased her to hide their mistakes. But now everyone knew. The public outcry was massive. Protests. Demands for investigations. Calls for accountability. The politicians who had ordered the cover-up tried to deflect blame, but it was useless. The story was too big. The evidence too clear. 3 weeks after the Battle of Titan 7, Hyunwoo and Ji-sun stood before a review board. Hyunwoo expected the worst, but instead of charges, they received something else. Full reinstatement of Ji-sun's combat status. Commendations for both of them. Official apologies from the military brass. The court-martial charges were dropped. Crimson Ridge was officially recognized, and the soldiers who died there were given proper honors. Ji-sun was offered any posting she wanted. Desk job. Training position. Honorable retirement with full benefits. Everyone expected her to take the easy path after everything she had been through. Instead, she made a simple request. I want to stay as Lieutenant Hyunwoo's gunner. That's all. The review board tried to convince her otherwise. She had proven herself. She could have any position. Why go back to combat? Ji-sun's answer was simple. Because I already lost one pilot. I'm not losing another. The board approved her request. Hyunwoo and Ji-sun returned to duty as a permanent team. Reaper 9 was repaired and upgraded. They flew together for the rest of the war, and their reputation grew with every mission. The pilot and the ghost gunner, the team that had brought down a cruiser with a chain gun. Together, they became the most effective Apache crew in the human fleet. Other pilots tried to learn Ji-sun's techniques. She taught them what she could, but everyone agreed there was something special about her. Some combination of skill, instinct, and sheer determination that could not be fully replicated. 1 year after Crimson Ridge was officially recognized, Ji-sun returned to the site. It was now a memorial, with names carved into black stone. 200 names. Her brothers and sisters in arms, and at the center, a special marker for Corporal Daeun, the pilot who had flown with her for 4 years. Ji-sun stood before Daeun's name and carefully removed the old, scorched Hell's Rain patch from her shoulder. She had worn it for 2 years, a secret memorial to the fallen. Now she placed it at the base of Daeun's marker, alongside flowers and other remembrances. "I'm sorry it took so long," Ji-sun said quietly to the stone. "But they know now. They all know what happened here. What you did. What all of you did." She touched the name carved in stone. "Rest easy, Daeun. I'll keep fighting for both of us." She turned to leave and found Hyunwoo waiting at a respectful distance. He had insisted on coming with her. On her shoulder now was a new Hell's Rain patch, crisp and clean, officially issued by the military. The 7th Orbital Drop Regiment was being reformed, and Ji-sun had been asked to train the new recruits. "Ready?" Hyunwoo asked. "Yes," Ji-sun said. She took one last look at the memorial, then walked with Hyunwoo back to their Apache. Reaper 9 sat on its landing pad. Weapons loaded, engines ready. Ji-sun climbed into the gunner seat, her hands resting naturally on the controls. This was where she belonged, not hiding in a maintenance bay, not pretending to be something she was not. Here, in the sky, fighting alongside someone she trusted. Hyunwoo started the engines and looked back at her through the cockpit. "Where to?" Ji-sun smiled. "Wherever they need us." The Apache lifted off, rising into the sky above Crimson Ridge. Below them, the memorial stood silent, honoring the dead. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, full of battles yet to come. But Ji-sun was not afraid. She had survived the impossible. She had faced her demons. She had found her purpose again. The war continued, as wars do. But humanity had learned something from Crimson Ridge and Titan 7. They learned that even one warrior, fighting with courage and skill, could change the course of battle. They learned that the dead deserved to be remembered, not erased. They learned that honor mattered, even in the darkness of war. And they learned that some warriors could not be broken, no matter what hell they walked through. Because humanity did not just survive. They returned fire, and they never stopped fighting.